Goldberg just for you.
Shekelwitz.
I don't think anyone would ever get it though.
All
If
right.
you explain funny.
Live impromptu
Fine.
stream with my buddy GODFOE Universe, Dan. I'll add his links later.
It's been too long, man.
Are you campaigning yet, or
No, Josh is still working on the book, and you know
okay?
our tenacity for that.
Still gotta. It's being ripicent, right?
yeah. No, we do everything to cut out middlemen, man. Like, if people want to do that, whatever. I'm not paying anybody. Like, I don't even pay Josh, so. I mean, I have an active campaign. It's in I think it's our Indiegogo is still in. What's it called?
Demand.
Active demand. People can buy it. I mean, that's the best deal for our current stuff. So if I'll send you that link if you want to throw it up there. People want it, they can pick it up.
Yeah. Put it in the private chat and I'll post it.
Because we don't devalue our stuff once it goes off. our books get more expensive once the campaign's over.
Oh, that's stupid.
Oh, okay. Nah,
a good businessman told me to charge $35 in shipping and then put it on sale for 86% off.
Man, that's when that first book came out, when Ice on One first came out, it was only the price that kept me from getting it. Because I was like, I'll give a guy a chance. I'll buy it. And it was like $35, and then $8 to $10 shipping. I was like, I'm not paying that.
Yeah. I was on an original backer. I bought it thanks to Dick Masterson. I bought it on eBay because Dick Masterson was roasting it in his review, and I'm like, no way, there's no way. And then it's like, yes way. But before we get into capitalism, I figured we could show a great example of capitalism and its failures, and that would be Yellow Flash. I don't know if you're a fan or not.
I don't really. I know who he is. I know he's like a guy that comments on stuff, but I never really watched him. Of all the guys in that kind of crew, the guy I watched the most was the Critical Drinker when he first came out, and Razor Fist for a good bit.
Wow! Oh my God, you watched Razor Fist? Jesus.
Oh yeah, he had that whole metal mythos that was cool, man.
Man, you're gay.
Okay. I like Judas Priest. You think it's gay to like Judas Priest?
It is actually, literally. That's fine, but it literally is gay. But no, Priest. There's some awesome Priest. Priest has got range, not quite my style.
Yeah.
But not the gay part, but the musical part. Not really into what they developed into, but I do appreciate the range that the band has, especially over time.
I quit after Painkiller. That's my favorite album of theirs.
Painkiller is a cool song. That was on I'm pretty sure that was on a Madden soundtrack.
Yeah. That's the most metal record I've ever heard is Painkiller by Priest.
But yeah, so I watched my stream yesterday. Rookie got a copy, and then I kind of reacted with you, the audience, and not detracted it. I guess I was honestly detracting it, like I always do, because God sent me to detract Rippaverse and its evil capitalist extensions. And Yellow Flash with his purpose. Yeah, Yellow Flash with his 500,000 subs. Used to be a big comic skate sphere person. He just abruptly nuked that relationship and bought into Rippaverse. And we figured out it was to rip us in his book. Anyway, I said, gotta be honest, Mighty Golden Patriot is the best Rip product to date. I'd say it's the comic equivalent to the Black Adam movie, a perfectly fine 5 out of 10 one-time read. It's crazy that Yellow Flash could upstage Eric July so tremendously with an adequate amateur book. Too bad the money didn't reflect that. Maybe next time, make your bag before you turn on Comicsgate.
So what's the plot?
A evil capitalist pig pilot is flying over German-occupied or Italian-occupied Egypt and interfering with their good socialist plans. And no, there's not really any economical aspect to the book. But yeah, he's a pilot in World War II. I think they're recon, and so they come across Germans, get shot down. I don't know if his pilot buddy gets killed, but he is. They're separate. Rest of the book, and he just happens to luck into finding an Indiana Jones archaeology site cave, and conveniently just happens across half of an amulet, and then instantly gets the Power Ranger suit, and then instantly can just fly. There's no like.
So he's an American patriot with Egyptian god powers.
Yeah. And one of the first things I'm like, wait. If this is an Egyptian god thing, why is it a Power Ranger suit? Because all the Egyptian, even the gods are drawn wearing like skirts and no shirts. And they wear sandals, so or they're barefoot. So
we all saw Yu-Gi-Oh!
How would they wouldn't have the context of like a spandex skin suit, you know? Which is
even the Moon Knight show did a pretty I didn't even watch the show, but the design looked pretty somewhat historically okay, I guess. Like the wraps or whatever.
Yeah, like mummy wraps.
Like mummy wraps, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so Stray Bean says better than Super Killer, and I'm like, whoa, how about no? People want to take Vito down, and it's like, I'm not joining this weird gay anti-Vito. I am pro Vito.
I thought Bat Sauce did a pretty fair review of it.
I mean, I guess I'll look at it. I don't know. I love Vito, so there's been a favoritism, but I think Super Killer is a funny idea. So I don't. A lot of people want to be fags and cry about like Rick and Morty. It's like a new modern thing to like hate Rick and Morty because it's nihilist or whatever. It's like, bro, you need to listen
Rick
to
and Mortar.
I'm sure you've noticed like Jordan Peterson talking points have permeated the right wing in very retarded ways. Of like Peterson's kind of retarded in the sense of like, oh, the postmodernist Marxist. It's like, though that's a contradiction. Marxism has a point to it. Postmodernism says there is no point to anything.
Meta narratives, yeah.
And yeah, so it's like that conjunction is literally retarded, and that's permeated the right wing. And so they hear this thing and like, oh, well, that's a left wing thing, so it's postmodernist Marxist. And it's like that.
The thing I'll give Peterson with that is that he's correct in the utilization, which is that the modern neo-Marxists use postmodernism as a dialectical tool to say there is no meta-narrative so that they can then substitute their own meta-narrative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that, sure.
I don't know if they actually believe both of those things at the same time, though. But who's to say, like, right? Like I saw like the crazy shooter apparently believed a lot of things that just happened to align with like government interference, you know, like
I just saw this one. So Box Top says, oh damn, it's already out and better than legendary writer Chuck Dixon. I'll wait for the Trash Cast review. I love how everyone thinks some fat fucking loser never wrote a story in his life, never drew a comic, all of a sudden is an American literary genius.
Hey, they talking about me.
Even I knew. He says, dude, wipe your ass with this post. And it's like, I don't. Wow, you're like really salty that I'm being fair to Yellow Flash.
I mean, I've always found like you're detracting pretty honest, or at least what I think you actually believe. I never thought you were a grifter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I don't jump right when I get a thing. You're like, oh, look at that. Like, good ding. That was like probably the quickest I detracted something. Because I was like, this is shit. Fuck Mike Barron. But yeah, I just thought that was funny to get that out of the way. Because it's a capitalist failure. You know, 500,000 subs should have easily made at least $1 per sub.
Well, how many of those are bots? I'm not saying that just
no, sure. I'm just saying like,
Flash, but yeah.
Like literally, he's at a point he should make $500,000, $1 million just because he put a thing out. That's YouTube merch is the point. And he only made like 127,000, and he's got to give 40% after fees to
40%.
Well, he did
the artist. I got you. Okay,
he did a 60-40 thing. But
sorry, I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say to Ripperson. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. What's up, Victor Lore Seeker? Eric membership, another stream. I do have an Eric membership. So if y'all want to super chat me to help sustain that $3 purchase every month, appreciate it.
What does it do? What does that subscription get you?
Oh, it's his channel membership to watch his, like, when he hides his streams, because we'll
Are you
detract him.
serious? That's it?
Yeah. Well, it's good to like have more context than just a Katie did clip.
No,
Although
I'm just
Katie,
saying, he's charging people to see his stream.
he hides behind a paywall.
Okay.
Well,
That's
he's
wild.
doing that. He's doing that now. Like, he used to do that for like monetize your haters, because that would be like the big draw.
Yeah.
But he does that for all of them now, because we'll clip them.
You know what? You were right. I need to get better at grifting. You need to keep encouraging me to do that.
But yeah, I don't know if you saw my tweet, Victor, if you follow me on Twitter or not, but I said it's a good 5 out of 10. It's the best Ripa product. I very surprised. Yeah, so the plot of that is he gets a Power Ranger suit in
wow,
World War II, and then he just kind of like instantly starts fighting Nazi planes, and he does like take his hits though, and there's way too many. It's very like kinetic, it's very action oriented, but there's like not much plot, and it's very generic, it's very juvenile. That's why I really harp on, like, it's an amateur, but it's a very fine amateur indie outing. I think, what say we want about Yellow Flash, that piece of shit, whatever, but he I think there's like a real passion to what he's doing. He's a real Power Rangers fanboy, and he's very excited to Power Rangers his comic, somewhat to the detriment of non-Power Ranger fans that would check his thing out, because like he's aping on some like deep Power Ranger lore. It's not just like Zords. This is like Ricky had to explain stuff to me. I'm like, oh, and so it becomes like, that's why I say Black Adam, because Black Adam, hate it. In a way, I hate. Like, I give it 5 out of 10. It's a perfectly adequate movie, but it is that because it's so busy trying to like recall other movies where it's like, I'd rather just be watching X-Men or Snyder shit, or if even Black Panther. Like, he's aping all these other better contained movies that are their own thing, and not being like, remember that, and trying to play this middle ground of like, maybe I could take over DC if this movie pans out. So that's why I mentioned Black Adam. On top of it's, North African, Egypto, whatever. So yeah, and then also the villains. He's doing this very this Star Wars problem that lots of Nazis in entertainment have, of being like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
But then also they're supposed to do the Holocaust. It's like,
yeah, they're supposed to be evil and brilliant, but they're also stupid somehow.
Yeah, it's like, see, that's the problem with the Jews. It's like they don't have any restraint with like memeing their enemy, their historic enemy. And so it becomes like, oh, are we supposed to take Hitler and the Nazis serious if like you meme them into iconography as like mustache twirling, cartoons? So you kind of hurt your own narrative that way. So ironically, it's kind of funny. He has this problem where it's like the villain is Lord Blitzkrieg. Also, Lord Blitzkrieg has his own suit because he has the other half of the amulet.
That's kind of cool.
Well, it's stupid because he instantly gets the amulet and he just instantly can use it. There's never like any buildup. Or
yeah, it should have been that he had it at the beginning and he's looking for the second half, and he's part of the reason they're winning the war at the initially.
Or do Spider-Man, where it's like, I get bit by a spider, now I'm like workshopping this power set.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like the bad guy. Like, if you could have said like, okay, how are the Nazis blitzkrieging so quickly? And it's like, oh, this one guy is super powered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's got wings, which is a weird detail to like make a point of when the Power Ranger is already flying without wings. It's like an interesting.
Yeah, detail. That is weird. Like, why? Yeah, don't have the same power while you have like a different physical attribute like that.
So yeah, it's all over the place. Also, there's this archaeologist who's like a double agent who's infiltrated the Nazis at this like dig site, and she's like, "Oh, like I've been researching this. Like I know what you got to say to activate it." And so it's basically Green Lantern motto.
Mm.
And it's just like gay.
Oh man, I just researched it. The Nazis didn't occupy Egypt.
Well, yeah, if anyone had, it would have been the Italians because they had Ethiopia, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't even know that. I was like, I gotta check this. Oh, you probably should have done some basic research there.
well, it's an alternate history, so
Oh, okay.
you can worm your way with that, I guess. But it's like the alternate history is like, wait, we're fighting Nazis, and so the hero is fighting Nazis. What's going to be different? Are you going to make the Nazis win? You know, like, so the hero sucks and fails in your alternate history. It needs to be Japan. It needs to be Japan because Power Rangers is Japanese. Makes more sense. Also, tell an alternate history where like the Japanese win Pearl Harbor and keep us out from the start, and so it's only like a infiltrating volunteer service kind of effort to thwart the Japanese through subterfuge because they've destroyed our navy.
Well, you can't.
But here's the thing. Here's the
Yeah.
biggest thing I said was, you can't be so flippant with an alternate history of such a monumental moment in history. The 6 years of World War II, and of course build it too. But like that, like I was saying, like, you know, however you feel about it in Israel, etc. The Holocaust is this tragedy porn bludgeon that we're using still 80 years later, 4 generations removed from it, still using it to influence free speech in the bastion of free speech, America. You know, Trump is going after Wikipedia now, or Wikimedia, to try to find people who are publishing criticisms of Israel on relevant posts on Wikipedia. Like, this is the state we're in.
My favorite is like that bit from Reddit where it's like, why did what is it like? Why did Croatia get bombed? And some guy's like, ever heard of Pearl Harbor?
Wait, what?
It's some let me see if I can find it. It's like a Reddit joke. It's like a Pearl. Ever heard of? Give me a second.
It's like, why do you hate Asians? Is it like that? You ever heard of Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, but it's funnier. It's like if I can find it. You can't find any. Oh, here it is. Yeah. What did we Serbs ever do to NATO to deserve to get bombed? And someone said, just a little thing called Pearl Harbor.
That's a classic. Yeah. I like the one where it's like, who did Pearl Harbor? And so like the Asian girl raises her hand in class and the teacher's like, yes.
Yes.
See, that's the thing too. That's the thing where it's like, when you're in like I profess myself as Groiper adjacent because I'm not Christian, so that's like a big factor of groiping, being Catholic or Orthodox, I guess, but Christian nonetheless. Not that. So I'm adjacent, and you know, if you ask why, it's like, again, World War II. Look at the bludgeon that the Holocaust is. Like, Woody Harrelson was on Joe Rogan recently, a couple months ago, and he's talking about wars for some reason. And he's like, well, obviously World War II was a just war. And people say that. And why do they say that? They're never saying it because the Japanese bum rushed us on a Sunday in Pearl Harbor and almost took out our whole Navy. They say it because the Holocaust, which is like how we pat ourselves on the back to absolve ourselves of the war crimes of the nuclear bombs, which I'm pro nuclear bomb dropping. That was a necessary evil, but it is a war crime. So it's like you can have both opinions. You know, people think it's like one or the other. It's like, no, it's a war crime. We killed thousands of civilians, but that was kind of the death blow to the Japs to surrender finally. So, hey, but net positive for America, like, good move, Truman. But it's still a war crime. It's still evil. But we won, so we can just not prosecute ourselves. But we never really deal with the shame of that sin because we saved the Holocaust, you know, like that's the narrative that supports World War II, not the justice that we served Japan for Pearl Harbor. And like that should tell you everything. Because like, what did we have to do with that in Germany? We only got in that because Hitler, in his methed out state, threw his hat in with Japan against America. So it's like, hey, now we can join the British and the Russians. Otherwise, we would have just been a West front, West theater, or sorry, Eastern theater war for us. And that like that's very telling to me that our own guys dying is not why we justify our involvement in the war.
I think there's a lot to that. Like, I know the idea, like the phrase post-war consensus has been thrown around a lot, and I think it is time to analyze a lot of that stuff. Like, I'm not a groiper by any means of the word. I don't agree, and I think we have differences views on the Holocaust and Jews and that kind of stuff. And I'm what 1/32 Jewish or whatever, apparently, according to my mom. I don't know. The rest of me is Irish. But I do think history, World War One, especially World War Two, have been oversimplified. If I had to summarize my stance, I don't know why. I still don't understand why we don't demonize communism the way we do Nazism. And I know it's because part of it is because we partnered with the communists, but then I think was it MacArthur that said like he watched them like rape Europe afterward and was like, we should have kept going. Like we should
Patton,
have gone. Patton. It was Patton. It was like, hey man, I can take Moscow. Like
he's like,
you
I
should
can
let
get.
me
He's
go
like,
do
we
it.
should give these Germans their guns back and go march on Russia.
He's like, yeah, we basically broke their god. We broke Nazism. We need to use these people to go break communism. And that's what that was the whole Japanese thing too, is these people did believe, or at least were willing to die for an emperor they thought was a god. And they had pretty good reason to believe. Like, I know we live in a materialist world. I mean, you can talk about this kind of stuff for hours, but the Japanese had good reason from a materialist view to believe they were God's chosen people of their emperor, because they had conquered so much, and they're a tiny island, and they had massacred China and
Yeah.
Asia, and they put up such a fight against us. Like,
Japanese are so cool. Well, that's the thing too. Is like the icons of evil. They're so cool. Hitler is awesome. The Nazi Empire is awesome. Like the reaches he took Germany in 12 years. It's astounding. Like people spend multiple generations of leaders to try to achieve what he did in like a decade. And he almost, with Japan, almost bent the world over, you know?
the thing with Japan is, and I've had to, I wasn't there to make the decision to drop bombs on civilian targets, but
But I'd
I
like
can
to have been.
I try to give every single person in history, I mean that every single person in history, some kind of benefit of a doubt. And the measures by which we fought Japan were not easy, and we were making headway, of course, in the Pacific, but we were also getting massacred at a ridiculous rate. Like it was almost impossible to take those islands the way we did. And here's the thing I always try to say to people whenever they start like moralizing so much about like, oh, the bombs, we didn't have to do it, America bad. I'm like, here's what people understand. Japan was exactly what Hitler wanted to be for the German people.
Yeah.
He saw them as an example of what he was building. And like I said, you can joke memes and all this kind of stuff. I believe Hitler was, an evil person doing evil things, and I don't think that he should have been killing like Jews, and he shouldn't have been killing all those people. I think he overreached his hand. I think he was a megalomaniac. But what I'm saying is like people don't see that with the Emperor of Japan and the Japanese mindset at the time. The Japanese mindset was exactly what Hitler was trying to get the Germans to become.
Yeah,
J
they're
j Yeah,
racial supremacists. Like,
exactly. They had reached a level of the right that he wanted, and people don't realize that. It's like, so if you're gonna justify Dresden, I think you have to justify the atomic bombs.
well, the reason the Japs don't get villainized because, well, it wasn't Jews who controls the media in the West. They've been controlling it since like the 20s. They write about it themselves. I've been meaning to get this book that talks, like, it's written by Jews. It's like the like hidden empire or something like that. So like they profess their own control of media for a century. But that's a big factor. But also the Japs are, when it's convenient, they're not white. You know, Asians are in this weird state of, sometimes liberals will count them as white people if the narrative suits them. Like college applications, well, they're white basically. But you know, history, well, we can't really villainize the Japanese like Hitler because they're brown. They're not, or whatever, yellow, I guess. They're not white.
I think some of it is the opposite a little bit. I think some of the reasons we were able to justify that kind of thing, and the reason we were able to jump to drop atomic bombs in Japan instead of Europe was because the Germans were white.
Oh no,
Is
no,
you
I'm
see what I'm
saying
saying?
in the modern day.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
No,
I'm saying
no, yeah,
at the time, yeah.
back then, all the way to Vietnam, it's like fucking gooks, blow them up, you know, shoot them all, you know.
Yeah, they were the foreign
They're,
difference.
yeah, like get them all, you know, blow them up all in their rice paddies or whatever memes you
Yeah.
want to make, racist
Well,
caricatures.
Patton was a complicated guy, and a lot of history is, and, like, I'm not, I know there is a right-wing push to try to, like, basically rejuvenate and whitewash Hitler's crimes, and I don't agree with it. I think, like I said, I think Stalin, Hitler, the Emperor of
Now,
Japan, Mao particularly, and Mussolini were terrible people doing terrible things. And I mean, I say that as a Christian. I know we have our differences, and
hey,
that's why I like
why are
talking
you
to you.
hating
But
on Italy, bro? Like,
because fascism destroys the individual, and it leads to a megalomatic, like, the thing is, none of these could have ever sustained themselves. Like, the Japanese people were able to sustain themselves because they did have some kind of an identity, and I know that's exactly what Germany was going for. But Hitler lied to himself and the people. He was not restoring a German people. He was making up a German past that never existed. And I'm not saying that from a left wing critical standpoint. I'm saying he admitted that. Like, he knew we could not go back because Germany had been Christian for like 1,500 years.
well, also unifying Germany was like a pretty new
Yeah.
thing, and they were always bickering tribes and duchies,
Hey,
whatever.
they've always been that. They've always been that.
Yeah, I had no idea until I just started getting into history, partially because of playing my game, that like Germany was never a. I mean, I guess it's the Holy Roman
the
Empire.
game, the game is Donkey Kong Bonanza. You're just sitting there and suddenly got oh shit, they were a different tribe.
It's like that's funny. It's like, thanks to playing Donkey Kong, I've learned quite a lot of history, which could actually be a thing because like that's how I got into like the Hellenism, is because of listening to documentaries while I was playing Assassin's Creed.
Hmm.
But it was like context immersion, basically playing Greek, listening to Greek.
Well, that's my problem with a lot of the left wing critique is that all history is bad. There's never been good. Everything sucks, and we understand like that's what it does. It subverts because it wants to progress history. And what they'll say is like, well, Hitler lied about the German past, but what they won't say is that German was Christian for 1,500 years. They won't admit that. I'm talking about the left wing critique.
Right. I was I had something right in the cusp I was gonna say, but I totally lost it.
Same thing with Russia. I mean, Russia was Orthodox, and then communism came in and destroyed it. And I like your criticisms that you bring up of Christianity from Nietzsche in particular of the weakness of the state that it had become, because I think Nietzsche was right about that.
Oh yeah. Like, yeah, I think, you know, in totality, I am not Christian,
Hmm.
but I come at it from like a Catholic perspective. So it's like I only really see validity in Catholic or Orthodox perspective just because the history that kind of gives
I
them a lot of
understand that.
grace.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you feel a
and
disappointment in the Catholic Church then, because it used to be a world power?
I don't care about that aspect. No, I don't care about that. Like, definitely, it's good to be centralized. Like when you're talking about fascism destroys the individual, it's like I don't think the individual fucking matters, especially if you're Christian. Like you're all on your individual path to be part of the Borg of God. You know, it's like the Christians got this weird duality of fear mongering the New World Order as an idea, but like that's literally what you're trying to make being Christian, because you're trying to evangelize this one idea. You know. So it's like,
I think that's an interesting idea. I think we can go into that. I think what makes it is Christianity does hold many dualistic ideas, such as the individual and the group becoming one cell, one body, but also being individuals. I mean, and to me, from my perspective, that's what makes it interesting is that it has these kind of contradicting ideas, and it has, I mean, the idea of Christ in general is a contradicting idea, God and man. Like the Jews never believed that, and like
hmm,
the what is it? The Arabs don't believe that. Islam doesn't believe that. No other religion believes that. Like Gnosticism had to break it apart for
oh, what
crying
about
out loud.
Zoroastrianism? They're like dualist.
Yeah, but they believe it's like two different things. It's not one God in within man that is one thing from the beginning of the world.
Yeah, but it's like a basically a primordial yin yang concept
Exactly.
idea.
And Jesus and the devil are not the yin and yang. Like they're not on equal terms. That's the thing is Christianity is overtly hierarchical, and I think, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm not Catholic, but I think the Catholic Church got a lot right. And I think I what made me realize it is that looking at the history of Nazi Germany, they had to, we talked about this a little bit on Twitter. They had to create this idea of positive Christianity for
I've been
Nazism.
looking into that, and I was reading
It's a
through some of it. I
yeah,
was reading through like one of the main architects of it. I'm like, this is awesome. Also, I've always had a problem with like I think you know the New Testaments they hand out, those are like Gideons, right?
yeah, the Gideon Bible, yeah.
Yeah. Is that like a Nazi thing? Because I never knew about this positive Christianity. And so I've always had a problem with the Gideon Bible. So I'm like, why are you giving out half the Bible? Well, why is there this whole other half missing? And it's like it's very obviously a lot of Christians, a lot of Protestantism, they like to ignore the Old Testament. Like they like to invoke it to like bash gay people. Otherwise, they just completely drop because they know it's a contradicting story to put with Jesus as the same person.
Oh yeah, I mean, we can go if we had 4 hours. I'd love to go into that with you. I don't think it's a. That's my problem too with modern. I'm gonna tell you this, Angus. If you don't mind me going off on it, my perspective of a lot of things changed with this election because I saw progressive Christian leaders just completely attack people like Christians that voted for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Donald Trump because I don't vote for anybody because I've got that anachronistic punk rock stupid side of me still. Um, I mean, I can admit that and discuss that. But anyway, like I saw them villainize people, and
Wait,
like,
wait,
oh,
wait, 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 wait. I
yeah,
just gotta ask because this is my biggest critique of libertarians. Like actually, I want
yeah.
to be Christian.
I am not a libertarian.
No, 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 no. But
Yeah.
you can't. I don't think you can be Christian and be libertarian because inherently, well, first of all, libertarianism, a lot of the sects of it, I'm not sure about the origin, a lot of the sects of it, like anarcho-capitalism, Eric July,
Mhm.
literally Jewish. All right. And so it's like you're talking about a political ideology that worships money, and then it ends up being Jewish. It's like who, dude, you can't make this up. and and so when you like that matters
Yeah.
because it's like you need to test its extreme boundaries. So it's like, all right, child porn. What are the rules for child porn in anarcho-capitalism control? Because you say child labor laws shouldn't exist. Well, pornography is a job you can seek as an adult. If you have no child labor laws, like where is your moral structure in a world that's just about money?
Well, that's my thing is like, and we can go back and forth on this. And
Give
you've
give to
been,
Caesar.
yeah,
That's what hung me up here with you saying you
you've,
don't vote because most people think it's like just about tithing or something or
hmm
do your due diligence to the Sabbath, but I think it's like a dual purpose that like God is invoking the right of the state on earth.
oh yeah, that's a hard Christian teaching that every side hates. Is that it teaches at least what's the word I'm looking for?
Civic duty.
No, I was gonna say submission to the state, but not complete total submission to the state. Like kind of like sensical submission to the state as long as it doesn't violate the laws of God. Like you should do what the laws in your country say, of course, unless they violate the law of God. And that's where, even Nazi Germany, again, going in communist Russia, Christians did have little uprisings. Most of them were not violent, but they're like, no, you're not coming into my house looking for people I'm hiding, or you're not taking my Jewish neighbor. And they would resist, and some of them would be physical, and some of them would not be. I think Corey, do you know the story of Corey Ten Boom and her family?
No.
She was a Christian German martyr that was hiding Jews from the Holocaust, and her and her sister ended up being put into a concentration camp. She barely survived. Her sister died, and she's got a whole thing about it. And I mean, I think you would find her story refreshing because it's not political and she's not preaching weirdness. It's like, no, this is my story of how my faith kept me from like dying, basically. But all that to say, like, I 100% agree with you. I think Christianity is made up of dualities, and I think they synthesize well, and I think you have to study them because I think the Old Testament and the New Testament are perfectly fine. I think Jesus is the God of the Old Testament, and when he said, "Go kill like the Canaanites and Amalekites," that's Jesus saying that. Jesus comes back in the apocalypse with a sword from his mouth, and he kills so many that the blood rises to the horse's bridle. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I see this and it's like, or a perfect example is
mhm,
so like I'm not Christian. I feel I became enlightened. Not to say that I have all the answers, but I feel I came enlightened about this collected religion because of all the
mhm,
different sects. So just, the collection of Christianity. um, there is no blend that works for me because there's too many contradictions. Um, or it's just like people like to ignore half of it
mhm.
because of Jesus, because he's
Well,
like,
that's what the Gnostics did. They separated the two.
yeah, well, I think they're correct. I think the Gnostics are correct in interpreting this book and being like, all right, actually, God of the Old Testament, he's a fucking demon or something. He's the enemy.
Yeah, the
Uh,
demiurge. Yeah.
that makes sense. Like, it's funny because like it's a natural rationale. I came to that before I ever heard of Gnosticism. I'm like, these don't mash up. These
Well,
seem opposed.
and if you don't mind me, I'm not. This isn't me trying to be like a dick or put you on the spot. I really want your opinion on this. Like, how do you reconcile God lecturing the Jewish people and them always failing, and them also collecting all those failings in the book to show that they failed, and it was only by their God that they succeeded?
Um, well, this is a big reason why I left was
Yeah.
slavery. All right. Um, like think of American slavery. All right. Would you ever join if a slave came up to you and was like, hey boss, want to join my religion? It's like, you're a fucking slave. I don't think your ethical framework really makes a good society because I bought you. Obviously my people have better ideas because we control you.
Hmm.
Like there's something, whether you think slavery is right or not, I think the fact that you can enslave people informs like, well, the slaves are lesser than, like culturally at least. Maybe not, we're all human, despite like racial differences. So I don't think race has I don't put as much value in race as Groypers do. I do see the like biological arguments of like dog breeds basically, because never trust a pit bull. Like it's in the blood, there's something there. There's factors to me that may be like just implicitly black or Native American on top of I'm also white. So, you know, but anyway, slavery. This is like the big thing in history that got me out of Christianity
Hmm.
was this triangle of history of slavery. You have the Jews, the Vikings, and the American blacks. And you look at the Vikings, a more recent time than the Jews. They weren't necessarily enslaved, but they never wrote anything. They had random runes, as far as we know, random runes, and their works of faith, their mythology, is tainted because it was written down once they were collectively Christianized. Now, how much of the Christianization of the Vikings was political and they were still practicing paganry behind the scenes, or like
Hmm.
Santorini and stuff where they like shift their gods into saints or something? Like, I don't know. But that's like a lot. We've seen this in more recent times, this like pivot of conquered people maintaining their old gods within Catholicism.
Hmm. The saints and all that. It's the
Yeah.
Santeria and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a possibility.
Well,
But
that was a
regardless,
that was a Protestant argument about Mary, was that they only elevated Mary because the pagans had so many female gods.
yeah, Athena, Hera,
Yeah.
the Vestal
I'm
Virgins.
not saying that because I've got some Catholic friends. I'm just saying that was a Protestant argument, and I think it's worth historical looking at.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I went to a Catholic church and I just started laughing because it's like, this is just a mockery of, people talk about like mosques being like this victory mocking symbol. And it's like,
I've never heard that.
I
You're
think
talking about
churches,
like taking over like
yeah,
Catholic churches.
victory
I
sites.
got you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's implicitly a mockery. And I think that about like Christian churches, Catholic churches, Orthodox, it's a mockery of paganry.
I agree with that.
Ben
I think the Old
Shapiro
Testament.
said that. Ben Shapiro said that about the Old Testament, about the plagues. He's like, the plagues were mocking the Egyptian gods. I never heard that. I never heard
Oh
that
yeah,
insight. And I'm like,
that's
oh,
a fascinating thing, and it is true. I think that's true. The Old Testament God, who I believe is Christ, the Old Testament God had no problem meeting pagan gods on their level, and I had a back and forth not with you, but oh God, I forgot who it was. Some Roman statue guy that you're smarter than on Twitter, and he was talking about the story of David and Goliath as Nietzsche's slave morality come to life. And it's like, no, David was a vicious warrior who slayed Goliath, took his sword, and led such a bloody destruction across the
yeah,
world that
David's like Dune. He's like Paul
yeah,
Atreides.
his son had years of decades of peace because he had thoroughly destroyed his enemies. Like the story of David and Goliath is the Israel gods telling the other gods, "I will meet you on your level and I will beat you at it." This is not a subversion the way you think it is. I will show you that I'm stronger at bloodshed than you are.
Yeah, I can see that argument. I don't really have an opinion. Like, I just take the David and Goliath story as a mythology. Like
I
David
understand
might be
that.
a real king, but this is
Yeah.
like the mythology. Like, you can believe it's true. I think it's like a legend, of maybe a real guy. It doesn't really matter to me.
hmm
It's a story. It's like Moses. It's a mythical story. A lot of
Well,
Jews think that.
I think he was trying to use it anti-Semitically, and I don't throw that term around. I don't throw fascist around. I don't throw anti-Semitic around. I just think this guy was trying to do that anti-Semitically to
Oh, to
destroy like the
say
Jewish people.
that like this is a subversive narrative.
Yeah, and it's like
I
you
think, yeah,
can't.
well, I think that's
Yeah.
definitely a factor. You see it in especially because like the Seleucids are mostly only preserved in history, a written record by the Maccabees books.
Oh yeah,
And
I just now got around to this because I just now got a papal
the
Bible. I've never read
problem,
those.
of those books and the narrative with like what is Hanukkah, which is like that should be the symbol, and it was the symbol of the Jews until recently with their demonic Remfram star.
I've heard
Uh,
that theory too.
but yeah, the menorah is a celebration of kicking out the Greek Empire, the successor state of Alexander in Persia, and that's like a cool thing. This little shit sliver of land
hmm
kicked out the Greek Empire with fucking war elephants. Are you kidding me? With the phalanx, Jews beat them. How embarrassing,
hmm
That's a real like notch on your belt as a people. That's really cool. I got to tip my hat.
Again,
Being a
people forget that the
Greekophile.
Hebrews were a warring people. People forget that.
Yeah. And so I'm seeing something in history, and I don't know if it's like a modernist thing. I don't know. But I'm seeing it like some people are interpreting that we have got the story all wrong, that we think it's like Jews versus Greeks. Like, actually, it's basically secularized, Hellenized Jews versus the traditionalist. And so the traditionalist one, so they dictate this narrative as like a bigger world encompassing event versus it was really an infighting of culture within the Jews. Because like I'm not sure about Babylonian time stuff, but you see it narratively that the Greeks start influencing the Jews to like that's where you start seeing the name
hmm
changes, where like they have two names. I got a Jew name, I got a Greek name, and then
hmm
this falls into the Romans, like Flavius Josephus. You think he's a Roman? He's like, he's a Jew. Why has he got a
Oh yeah,
Roman name?
they had Babylonian names when they were under captivity for what 400 years was it?
Yeah, I'm
Something
not sure how the
ridiculous. Not
length of
400
time, but
years. That
that
was
is
Egypt.
that is yeah, well, that's what's funny. This is just a tangent with the because you invoke Babylon, but I looked into it. I asked Grok, I'm like, hey, how far back
70 years.
does the Talmud go? Because like, yes, it's compiled in like 550, but how far back does this oral tradition go? Because the Bible is mostly oral tradition. So like, how that's a relevant question of history for those
hmm
people. And said it goes back to like some Jews argue it goes back to Moses, but at least goes back to the first temple.
The
And
Talmud does?
yeah, the rhetoric, the oral tradition of the
Ah, I
Talmud.
got you. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's written Christians will try to pivot and say, oh, well, the Jews just like they kept doing their own thing after Christ, and it's a totally different religion than what he was doing. And so it's like astray or hostile to the past of itself with the rabbinics. But the Talmud goes back to the first temple. That's where the rhetoric comes from. You see the Talmud echoed in like the Psalms, so there's hints of it in the Bible. And
well, that's where I'm confused, because full disclosure, I haven't studied the Talmud and the history of it, and I know the online discussion about it, but the Christian Bible has Jesus arguing with rabbi leaders, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who clearly were different sects that were doing something that he
I didn't know those were sects until like 2 years ago. I thought they were ranks. I thought it was like
they're
cardinal,
two different.
bishop.
They believe two different things. Yeah,
I had no idea. This is the problem with the Bible, is there is no archaeology. Like you need study Bibles of like intensive
I agree with
archaeology, mythology, culture of the time, region that you're reading in, so you understand what their temperament was, what their gods were, what their philosophical conflicts would be. Their
Wesley Huff does a great job of that. He was on Joe Rogan.
What do you call it? Like what are the standards? Because like
expectations,
most people may like just all around may not be eating pigs unless it's like right there eating, because you can't really preserve pig meat very well, versus like beef or something. But so like kosher issues, like the Greeks come in, they put Zeus in the temple, they try to make meat pigs, sacrificing pigs, which is great. I love it. Yeah,
didn't Tiberius do that as well later? He destroyed the second temple.
I'm not sure of that whole era. I know the Romans. That's what's funny too, is like people want to be like, yeah, we're going to be Christian and Roman. It's like, hey, guess who defeated the Jews? Pagans. Pagans took down the temple. Christians didn't do shit. Jews infested Christian nations. That's like the whole 109 country history is Christian nations they infest. And they just keep passing themselves around the Europe, and
that's always been held in Christian tradition, especially the Catholics, was that the sacking of Jerusalem was what Jesus prophesied whenever he was on the way to the cross, and he said
pagans did that.
Yeah, he said there's not going to be a single stone left turned because of what you're doing. Well, I had this theory, and like we can talk about this, and I had this idea of I need to work it out some of I think Pontius Pilate is a much deeper character than we give him credit for, especially the Christian tradition. The Jewish tradition kind of writes him off. Especially the Jewish, they don't really care about Pontius Pilate except that he was like a Roman leader. But the Christians are always like, he's always like this evil guy. And my thing is, I kind of have a sympathetic reading of Pontius Pilate. When you read it, he's a guy in power that's trying to avoid a Jewish uprising. He's got this guy in front of him that he has no problem with. And the Jewish king, Herod, had no problem with Jesus. He's like, this guy's clearly not leading a revolution.
Well, Herod sent him to Pilate, though.
But what I'm saying is Pilate can look at the Jewish king and be like, your own king has no problem with me. Why should I have a problem with him? Like, these aren't my people. This isn't my problem. But like Pontius Pilate washing his hands and then giving the choice of Barabbas and Jesus, which Barabbas was also named Jesus, and he was a revolutionary, to the Jews, is actually, it mirrors like Old Testament prophets and priests when they would stand before Israel and say, choose ye this day who you follow. And it seems to me Pontius Pilate is inadvertently acting in that judgment against the Jewish people for rejecting the Messiah. And he's saying, this is not Rome's problem. Rome will not be held responsible for your decision here.
I feel like
that's a lot, I know.
The way you're invoking that makes me think of Samuel with Saul.
Yeah, very much.
He's very much like, well, I mean, you want it, I guess. God picked this guy. Here you go.
Like, so much of the Hebrew Bible is God saying, you make a choice here and you're going to pay the consequences for it. And
I do like that. I am an Old Testament fan. So don't misconstrue my dismissal of like the value of Christianity to like live by, with lessons and narratives to take away from it. It's still a valuable book. Like The Log in the Eye. I was going to say The Log in the Eye reveals a lot to me, that narrative, because you're reading it and he's giving this whole little parable about the brothers, and like, oh, you're worried about the speck in your brother's eye. You have a log in yours, you know, remove the log from your own eye before you worry about other people. It's like, that's a great narrative. That really is the meme of that idea. And Bible's got a lot of these memes to live by, regardless if you believe in like the message bringers. But in that same thing, abruptly, Jesus says some shit about like casting the pearls to the dogs. It's like, it's very like rabid in the same parable. It's like, where did that come from? That does not mesh at all with what you're like the narrative that I'm just like, oh, here's like nice Jesus giving a nice little story of a life lesson in an abstract way for retard normies to understand. And then he just turns rabid. And it's like when people talk about Muhammad and Islam, it's like that is Jewish cult, just like Christianity. They are both rooted in rabid warmongering and unsurrendering. They're not peaceable with people around them if they have control. Like, this is inherent. Christianity just has the benefit, I think, of liberalizing over time, you know. And you could say there's something implicit in the nature of Christianity versus Islam and Judaism too. You see when they have control.
Oh yeah, well,
how evil they can be.
Yeah, the main figure of Christianity allowed himself to be crucified, as opposed to Muhammad, and as opposed to like. And this is what I'm not going to bring this up, but this is what always gets me crucified on Twitter is when I say Superman's a Christ figure, and I say he's clearly not a Jewish archetype, and people call me an anti-Semitic, and I'm like, I'm not an anti-Semitic,
bro. I watched a Superman video, and this guy makes this aside about Snyder. He doesn't like these Jesus comparisons because he's like, you know, the creators were Jewish.
Who cares? The creators of Christianity were Jewish.
And it's like, what, you just said you're Catholic. Why the fuck do you care about offending Jews? Your belief in Jesus offends Jews. This is where you get like my defense of like a rabid Nick Fuentes with his Christian views, where I'm not Christian, but it's like your belief. If you believe in Christ, that is a radical.
It's a blasphemy. It's a Jewish blasphemy. Yeah.
Christianity is a Jewish cult, just like Islam. And
I think that's a fair, if a strictly academic historical assessment. I think that is a fair assessment.
You're a cult who invokes a false messiah by their narrative. Like, you're a cult. That's the break. And that's what gets frustrating. And so like, I have this outside perspective where it's like, I don't dismiss Christianity. Like, I don't believe in it. And so there's a dismissal in that way, I guess, but I don't dismiss it. Like, I do try to look at it academically and historically and be objective. And I think that's where people get sideways with me. They don't know how to come at me because on one hand, I'll defend like homophobes of any religion because like, well, your religion says that's like abomination of nature or something to indulge that. And you get the nuance of like Catholics say like, well, you can be gay, but you got to like pray the gay away. You got to, or be celibate, you know. I don't know what the theology of like forcing yourself to be straight is, because I feel like that's lying. So I don't know what that theology would be. That's classically what people would do.
There is the theology of denial of self for all Christians. And the argument usually is, okay, if a person has homosexual tendencies, they deny them the same way a straight man has to deny all sexual tendencies except for his wife. That's the argument.
Comparison.
That is the old language argument. But I mean, I don't find. I think that's why we get along so well. I don't get offended by that. So if someone doesn't like my religion, I don't care. I mean, I grew up with people who didn't like my religion. I grew up loving musicians that hated my religion. What do I care?
Yeah, it's like I feel I don't know. I feel appropriately respectful without bending the knee and being like, "Oh, I can't offend you," because it's like you have no problem.
I wouldn't want
to
be
no
your
problem
friend if you were
offending
like
Muslims. You have no problem offending pagans. You love the idea of cutting, not you, but Christians collectively love the idea of like defacing other people's religions, like they did when they took over Rome. These radical fucking Antifa Christians would.
But at some point, you respect that. See,
well, I it's an honest view, I think, of a non-believer that isn't a
Oh yeah,
rabid.
we can't pretend the history of Christianity isn't violent like everything
I'm
else
not.
is,
I'm
just
not.
better.
I'm not a rabid like destroy the church. Like, if I destroy the church collectively, it's through the argument that you're wrong. It's not, oh, I'm going to subvert you and I'm going to make gay Catholics and like that. That I've always hated that. Even like I'm bisexual. I didn't leave Christianity because of that. I was trying to pray the gay away. You know,
And you
I was trying
didn't
to
well, you
abstain.
didn't try to change the church either.
No, it's like this isn't for me. Like if I'm going to be gay, I can't be Christian. I can't indulge gayness if I'm Christian.
Yeah.
is so like that's my view. And so I was never trying to change it. It's like, well, that's not for me. But that wasn't why I left. It was getting back to the slave thing. So what we know of Viking mythology, their paganry, was written by Christianized people. All right. So it's inherently a flawed, it's a questionable capture of their religion. Beowulf is a questionable capturing by monks. What did they omit, if any? Maybe they didn't, but you have to question because you see the history of what do we preserve? This is a big thing in the Byzantine Empire. Is like, what do we preserve of the Greeks? Do we preserve anything? Because they're pagan. You know, it's a classic Christian argument of preservation of history.
And to be fair, it's an argument that only Christianity would have had. Other religions would have outright wiped it out.
Well, Muslims probably. Well, no, Muslims. We have Aristotle because of the Muslims, so I don't even know about that. You know, it's what blend of Islam. You know,
Yep.
I'll give them that leeway too. Like Christians, it's what blend. An Amish, a Pentecostal, Baptist, they would just burn everything. But Catholics are enlightened.
Preserved it pretty
Orthodox are enlightened. It's when you get into fundamentalism, and this is inherent to like mostly, I think, to Protestantism, and so it is another demonizing factor. But so you got that example with the Vikings. All right, a flawed capture of their religion and their subjugation culturally, and having to, if they're preserving it, they're hiding it, you know. Then you have American slaves. All right, American slaves were not Christian people when they were enslaved. They were tribal pagans in Africa. They are not Christian people. How are blacks the most Christian people in America?
Hey, they were Christianized
because they were enslaved. All right, so their religion is gone, or it's fragmentarily preserved through oral tradition, and so black people basically have no culture from the old world because we were enslaved and had a religion forced on us. And then you get these weird like voodoo, Santeria and stuff where they're like pivoting their religions into other religions, hiding it in plain sight, and then like losing the truth that they believed, you know. So you get to the Jews, the Hebrews, Egypt, their narrative, whether it's true or not, their narrative, and this is a kind of a repeated narrative with the first temple, it's like a true thing. Babylonians took control of them. They have a repeated history in their own narrative of subjugation. All right. And most people, even though Hebrew is a very old language, most of this stuff is going to be oral tradition. All right. Now you look at slavery in America, they're Christianized because they're slaves. And this is from an ethical slavery. Egyptians, we assume, had way less rules about slaves in an archaic time. They're going to have a lot less ethics about slaves. They're chattel, you know? So there's going to be a lot of hybridization. There's going to be a lot of rape or just natural intermingling with the Egyptians. And that's going to be cultural, not just genetic. All right. And you see this with like all these like same stories in the Mediterranean where it's like, oh, the rainbow in Noah, that's actually like Sumerian or Assyrian with like the rainbow god, the bow, the archer god. That it's like a misconstrued symbol now in their narrative. And so you think about that. Think about the game of telephone and how things get so decayed over the passage of the story through telephone. That's what oral tradition is. You got to question the validity of the oral tradition. Was it really preserved by God, or is it just a man-made story that is flawed to the cultures around it? It's subjugation. And so are you going to trust slaves not just one-time slavery, but repeated slavery by all of these empires around them, that their narrative is purely contained and has a through line. And so that was that reasoning of like looking through history and applying it to the Hebrew story, if it is a true story. I can't, that is the bedrock of Christianity, is the Jews. And if their religious narrative is flawed and influenced by subjugation, how could I trust Christianity as a follow through? Now, I say that because they edited horribly the Moses story from Egypt, because they have the narrative of he comes down the mountain. What do the Jews do? They're worshiping a golden calf. Where did they do that? Where did they learn that from? They learned that from the Egyptians. So these people in their own narrative are Egyptized. Mm-hmm. They have blended the religions in their own narrative of their sacred text. They give this away.
Horrible yeah, that's editing. One reason. That's one reason they claim God had to kill that generation off in the desert for 40 years. Was to kill off the Egyptianization.
I get that. I get that. You know, you try to like tie it up. You know, tie the threads together and be like, well, they're out of the picture. God killed them, but that's a very convenient narrative. You know, it's like, it's very convenient Darth Vader dies, so he never has to face like trials for the genocides, you know, like it's very, very, very nice narrative Lucas made for Vader to be redeemed.
Oh no, I get that criticism, which is why I don't think arguing a faith makes sense. Like I used to cringe whenever like the new atheists would argue Christians, because to me it's like both of these guys are making asses of themselves.
Well, they're arguing science usually, and Neil deGrasse Tyson greatly says like, yeah, I don't come at it that way because the Bible's not a scientific book, so I don't argue that point.
Well, like Christianity falls apart if Christ isn't the Son of God. I mean, and Paul himself uses the Greek logic to say that. Like, he said, if Christ isn't resurrected, then we are to be pitied above all other men, basically because our religion is ridiculous. like that's the thing, is like if this man isn't the Son of God, none of this makes sense.
Well, I'm gonna catch up with the chat real quick. There's someone said something about Witcher. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, dude. Yeah, he's talking about Razor Fist.
Mm-hmm.
I can't take a guy seriously doing monochrome or whatever, black and white videos, trying to be cool and leather and shades in his gaming room.
I always thought it was supposed to be ironic or a bit.
He sounds like fucking Gilbert Godfrey, but he thinks he's cool.
He does sound like Gilbert Godfrey.
I can't take this serious, bro.
What's your assessment, Angus? Do you think he's a secret one? Do you need to check Razor's early life?
Oh, I don't know about that. That's funny. I just thought he was cringe without thinking he's a Jew.
For the record, chat, I am apparently 132nd or 64th Jewish.
Dan Shekelwitz.
Which is enough for Angus to troll me and to accept me.
Man, what kind of... Man, that is a genetic sin of your, I assume, Irish Catholic background.
I got nice curly hair out of it, though. I didn't get the money from it, though.
Defiled your race. You should shun. You should just.
I was already a Celtic bastard mutt. So.
You should shun that family lineage. It's like your great shame. It's your great genetic shame.
I like Scrummy Wormy. His next one, he said, linguistic entropy. That's a great
What's
phrase.
That mean?
It's like your destruction of the biblical narrative as it passes orally.
Yeah. I guess that's my argument. Yeah, is like I don't trust it.
Fair enough.
Well, because like history, you know, you look at like some people are like, oh well, like the pagans lost Rome, so why would I believe their gods? They lost. I would say that for Christianity now, gays, the commies, the gays and the commies are defiling from within.
Well, I think it was
they're doing the same thing y'all did.
I think it was Chesterton that said like the church has died but multiple times, but it has a father that is resurrected multiple times, something to that effect. I think he was saying that about like the destruction with the Enlightenment and then communism and all that. But I guess we'll just have to see, right?
Yeah, I think.
Pull up Cloudy's newest thing. What are you saying, Gray? What's your opinion? Oh, the Jewish one. Apparently, like my great grandmother or great great grandmother had an affair with like a married Jewish guy and
Wow.
produced two sons that she took and claimed, but I think he never claimed. That's like the family story or whatever.
Wait. So a female slept with a Jew?
Apparently, yeah.
Well, it doesn't count then.
Oh, okay, yeah, because they pass it down with
Which
matrimony. Is
I
what
don't. How does that happen? How is such a patriarchal, red pill, Chad, Old Testament God
well,
system?
I
How is it
think it's because
matrilineal?
I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of that is a lie or a misconstruction by the modern kind of neo-pagan guys that just want to throw a divide between the West and Jews. I don't think Jews are strictly a matriarchal idea like that. At least I
No,
don't
no,
think
no.
they were.
There is I want to say the infamous Cassie Dillon. That's like the
I don't know
person
who
that
that is.
started Nick Fuentes. I don't know who she is, but she's like she was someone trying to groom Fuentes in like Daily Wire. And then that's when he started asking about Jews. And he's like, hey, this is like isn't making sense. He's like, I thought we were the side that can question stuff. Like, I just want answers. He used to be a big like Semetophile or whatever you call it. He
That's
was like
weird too.
a normie. Yeah, he's like a normie conservative Fox News guy.
And we've had that discussion before. I don't get the weird obsession with Israel. Like I don't care who controls that region. I don't
um,
understand the Republican obsession with Israel.
well, it's dispensationalism.
Yeah.
There is some narrative, I guess, in the Bible about like a third temple will like cue the apocalypse for
Well,
the end
there's no
times.
mention of there just is a third temple apparently in Revelation. It doesn't say when it's built or how
I
it's
don't know
built.
what the Jewish narrative of a third temple
I don't
means.
either.
I have not looked into that, but they did the red heifer ceremony secretly, and they got the ashes, so they're
Good for
trying to
them.
kick off the third temple. So they're trying to take, I guess,
My
what the
my religion says that my God comes down and takes that land from whoever has it. So I don't think you want to have it in Christianity.
um. Well, it matters because like the dispensationalist fundamentalists, they think the apocalypse is going to happen if we
Yeah.
like. So they're not even pro-Jew and like, hey, we just love these people. It's like they have an end goal with Christ to
Yeah.
push the Jews in control. Um,
It's
but
wild.
in supporting this, they're supporting like we spent maybe multiple trillions in the Middle East over 20 years
Mhm.
to kill their enemies. Saddam, we're trying to do it to Iran, we've done it to Syria, Libya, all these enemies around them for this greater Israel project. This has been their plan since like who took over in like the 80s. And so this is the big problem is like just politically, regardless of religion, is why are we draining ourselves for people across the globe
Yeah, I don't
who
understand that either.
and we let them have dual allegiance and then be in our politics, and so they vote to give themselves money and weapons.
I don't think any politician in any level of our country should have dual citizenship.
Right.
I think you
Or
should go down with the ship.
at least Thomas Massey tries to offer this bill of like, well, if you're a dual citizen, you should have to disclose that so people know when they're voting.
I think you should have to disavow it.
And well, no, I agree. Yeah, it makes no sense that we have these double agents because these double agents actually only have allegiance to Israel.
Well, I think it's across the board. I think there's Chinese members like that.
Well,
There's
yeah,
Russian members.
but
Yeah.
here's the thing: because we allow dual citizenship with these Jews, they uh that they basically do this legalistic bullshit to be like, well, it's not a foreign entity. AIPAC's not a foreign entity. It's these are Americans funding this political action committee to fund
Okay.
politicians.
That's like in the 50s that there was like an American Communist Party, and there was, and we're supposed to pretend that they're not helping Russia.
Exactly. This is the problem. And yeah, so this is the problem in a nutshell of like America First, of being Groiper adjacent, of being so hard on Israel, because it's like every other nation has to disclose their foreign ties. Israel gets this workaround, and that's why JFK got killed, is because he was trying to make what was AIPAC before register as a foreign agent, and he was trying to keep them from having the bomb, and they were getting it. So then he was trying to make them open up to checks basically, and then they literally made like a fake nuclear site to try to trick us. And so he basically gave their president an ultimatum, and then he resigned when he got the letter. And then JFK gets shot in November. Then like less than a year later, they do like nuclear tests because they stole this shit from us and maybe had help from the French. I'm still fuzzy on the narrative, but that's why JFK was killed, because of the Jews. And so you're talking about the last maverick president that was for America was killed by these people, and they never had to pay for it. And we've been bailing them out. We've sustained their country basically since the inception. They should have been subjugated by the Syrians, by the Egyptians, by Lebanese, but we bailed them out. And they do this nuclear blackmail. Yeah, they did this to Nixon. That's why he bailed them out in, I think, 73 war, 67, 73, I think. He bailed them out because they blackmailed them with like nuclear war, because Russia was going to get involved because they had allies with these Arab countries. And the other thing too is it makes no sense to be so invested in this sliver of a country that is enemies of everyone else. And it's not really a Jew Muslim thing. It's that the Jewish people secularly as a government, they have this paranoid policy of like this fear mongering of any neighbor. And it's like, they blackmail you with like, oh, do you think Israel has a right to exist? And it's like, well, I mean, I guess. And then so then they use that to blackmail you. It's like, well, this is why we have to kill everyone around us. And so we have all these good relations in the Middle East until they take Palestine, and now we've alienated ourselves to the Arab world. And it's been at least $1 trillion in the 21st century doing these wars on their behalf. Toppling Saddam was for Israel, it wasn't for us. He didn't have nuclear program. He wasn't trying. Libya gave up their attempt, and we still killed him with NATO, with Obama. And so this is a dual problem. It's not a Republican problem. It's a government problem. The government's purple, and almost like 90-something% of the politicians are all bought by AIPAC. They're all funded by AIPAC. Very few don't take AIPAC money. And so this is why the Israel issue is such a big thing. And then you look at what they're doing in Gaza. We're funding that. It's not even about should they annihilate the Gazans for their own safety? Like it is a problem having like this Indian reservation of enemies in your own borders. That is a problem because they have a blood debt since 48, since they took over, so you got like a almost 100-year problem of Jews versus Palestinians.
That's my thing, is I don't know why my country is involved in a like 5,000-year-old blood feud in the Middle East.
Exactly. Well, it's at least an 80-year blood feud, and the Palestinians are very justified in having the feud. We call all these people terrorists, and this is just a gay op to hey, you're a patriot, right? You don't support terrorism. You don't negotiate with terrorists, do you? And it's like they're actually freedom fighters. There's a difference. This, and so this is why the Israel issue is such a big thing, because no other country gets this leeway. No country, like we're sanctioning Russia for war crimes in Ukraine for just a territorial war where the people are Russian that are trying to secede from Ukraine. They just want to be Russian properly. And they're like, no. And so this is why the war is happening. And so we're calling Putin a war criminal for just doing conventional warfare. Yeah. And yet starving people to death, like literally a Holocaust narrative, they get away with it because they own all the politicians.
And I'm not trying to move because I just got another appointment at 2, but you want to get to the capitalism thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not an economist. I don't study this stuff deeply, but I see someone like Luigi Mangione to be like extreme. Yeah, I think he's kind of a hero. And it's not kill the rich. It's that, why are these people rich? Well, that guy that he killed is an insurance guy. They make money. And this is the problem with capitalism, is it's all about profit and gaining capital. And when you have capital as an issue to make art or to it's the tipping point for giving people health care to make them well. And
you when benefit from people dying or being denied basic health care, we have a
being
moral
sick
issue.
yeah. And so how is Luigi Mangione immoral for murdering a murderer, a mass murderer? It's just like you talking about the Nazis, and I want to say his name was like Eichmann. He's one of these guys at the Nuremberg trial. He was like the logistics guy for the trains and stuff. And so this is where we get into this like abstraction, this confrontation of modern. I can't think of the words they use for it, but like the banality of evil, I think is what they termed it.
Yeah, that's the term. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a big thing we faced after World War II. Nuremberg trials was, well, this guy facilitated like the train routes for the concentration camps. So is he a murderer? Like, if we have that standard, I think that should apply to like people having just a blanket, let's deny 80%. And then eventually, if they keep appealing, we'll finally kick in the money. But we're going to try to stall them so they just eat the debt.
Yeah, the job of insurance to make money is to get you to pay for it and then use everything in their power to not pay for it themselves.
Yeah, so that's like an example, or like art, where you know art is now only valid if it makes money and not like its inherent
that's close to
value.
my heart.
Like the Marvels, all right. So Captain Marvel sucked, but they had a purpose to it. You could say it's like socialist engineering, whatever, trying to take over a male thing for feminine socialist whatever you want to say about it, Marxism, postmodern, whatever. But I think they like had a pure intention. They're making something unencumbered because they had the money to do it, and like let's not like be so cookie cutter. Let's like push the boundaries. Let's try to influence society with our art. And it's like a pure goal, you know. It's propagandist, but it's like that's their pure goal with it. And then you get the Marvels after the backlash to Captain Marvel, and they have years to simmer on it, and they're like, okay, we can't sell this again. And so you see Nia DaCosta, we probably would have hated her movie, but it'd be like The Last Jedi. It'd be something pure, even if it's pure evil artistically. There's something valuable about pure evil artistically, versus some corporate chop shop of like, let's appeal to this demographic. Hey, let's not offend the guys anymore because we're going to take this movie if we don't try to paint it to them and give them. Let's show Captain Marvel's midriff now. Let's not be so feminist in our messaging, even though it's a girl movie. So who's the audience? Like, so like I am, even for my enemies, I'm pro like purity. And I think capitalism destroys our enemies' pure visions. And that's not a good thing.
So this idea kind of came up. We were talking mostly about like I think maybe the destruction of culture, and I get what you're saying. You're kind of taking a more right-wing, anti-capitalist approach to a lot of the things that the culture war, like the Friday night tights kind of guys, kind of wind about with culture. And I agree. I think to some degree, and this is the conversation I wanted to have with Brody, and then with all three of us as well, because he's more left leaning than you. He's a young, brilliant guy, which really makes me happy to like bring him on and like stir up trouble against more of the right wing kind of guys stuff on here, because we all agree that there's something terribly wrong with the world.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think I don't think capitalism. I don't think like the super left wing stance that capitalism is some force that devours on its own merit. Capitalism is not an ideology. It's not like Marxism or fascism, but I do think it is the easiest tool now available to distill and destruct culture. I agree. It sells off culture. It literally sells off our land. For some reason, Chinese people, businessmen can buy American land. That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense that you allow like that kind of stuff, especially like with farmland and things like manufacturing and stuff like that. Like I understand engaging with businesses internationally, but there has to be a line. There has to be that your country and your people in that country. And like I said, I'm not a race essentialist by any means. I think Americans are Americans regardless of their race or culture. I think if you're an American, you're an American. I don't care what your race is. And I think capitalism is allowed to dismantle those things, and I don't like that.
Yeah, it reduces everything to profit, which is a
Yeah.
kind of like the whole anarcho-capitalism thing, and you get into like values. It's like what it is. Nick Fuentes says it's like, hey, is it all just about lower gas prices and lower taxes, corporate tax cuts? Like, is that what we're about, or are we about like an actual culture?
Well, let's cut to the chase here. That's what the term blood and soil was about. Like I
Yeah,
said, I know that there's
it
a
doesn't
whole
have to be
thing.
racial. Historically,
Yeah,
it
and
usually is,
and I
though.
know there's a whole thing on the internet. I don't care what people think. I know what I believe. I don't think Nazism was a good idea. I think Hitler was awful. I'm not against the Jews. Yada yada yada. Disavow, whatever. Black Angus is my friend. I don't care what he thinks. He's my friend. We're gonna talk. And but I understand that appeal to some people. Like I said, I don't believe in a racial purity, but at some point you have to look around and say, where is the soul of my country? Is it being sold off by my own country?
Yeah, it's like the whole Chinese thing is like, why are we letting any interest own us, own our
Oh yeah.
stuff?
And I don't agree with interest at all. And I know some people want to do the Jewish thing of Ursary. Ursary existed before and after the Jews. I don't think it's a Jewish creation. It is a
Well,
terrible
they
idea.
invoke that because this we're getting like the Talmud stuff where it's like, and
Hmm.
maybe it's even biblical, but they have these like in group rules of like, hey, that's disgusting. You ever charge interest on your
Yeah.
fellow Jew? But hey, financially rape everyone around you. That's cool. Like
Oh
they
yeah, and
endorse it.
every group has done that. The only reason I'm going to bed is because the Jews, the Hebrews, I should say, the Hebrews were punished by their God for not practicing the jubilation year, which was every 7 years you freed your slaves and you canceled all debts.
Mm.
And if you didn't do that, well, sorry, the jubilation year was every 40 years. I'm sorry, every
Free the
7 years is
goyim?
the punishment.
Never.
And yeah, the whole point was that, not the whole point, but a big point was the cultural stability of like, no, you don't get to enslave your neighbor, whether he is foreign or not, to debt or to physical slavery. That destroys a nation. And that's what God said. Like, that was the whole point of the Hebrew God saying, all right, you're going into captivity for 400 years under the Egyptians.
Is that
And I
like
mean,
a 7 times 70 or whatever? You know,
yeah, it's something like, I think it was every 40 years that you was the year of jubilation where you had to release your slaves and you had to cancel all debts.
no, like the curse of Cain, where it's like
Yeah.
he's cursed 7 times, and if you kill him, you're cursed 7 times 70 or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not a theologian. I'm an artist, and if I say something wrong, people can correct me. But I shouldn't say God punished them for 400 years in Egypt, because the captivity in Egypt was not a punishment. It was actually a preservation. I think at the point, the Babylonian captivity was 70 years, and that was a punishment. That was because of Moloch. And we discussed that, I think, on Twitter. Um, or maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was someone else I was talking
I've
with.
not ever talked about Moloch.
Well, somebody was trying to say that was a Jewish god. It's like, no, it's a Canaanite god that some of the Jews, that some sects of Jews worshipped, and some Jewish Hebrew kings allowed to exist, and they were punished for it. But all that to say, like, what I'm saying is, like, there's something even biblical in the Jewish and Christian idea that you should not enslave people to debt.
Yeah, it's yeah, I think
It's
it's just
terrible. It
antithetical.
destroys your nation. It is parasitic, and for Twitter, I do not mean that say that Jews are parasites. I don't, because I know you say certain words and people get mad about it.
Disclosure.
I did.
This is
I
why I
don't
get a kick
care.
out of it. It's like even you were like, I don't care about Israel, but they're like, oh no, don't be offended, Jews. Like
No, I don't care if I offend a Jewish
it
person with
comes
that. I'm saying
across
I'm
that way
gonna.
because people do that.
Oh, yeah, they do. I don't care if it's China owning part of my country and they're charging interest on it. That's not right. I don't. I'm not a racial realist or what. I don't. That's my problem with the Groyper stuff, is the race stuff and like the apparent Jew hatred. Like, I know too many Jews the same way I know too many Catholics to know these people are not a monolith. And I know that people sometimes use Israel as a stand-in for Jewish people, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with what the
They
Israel
are
government is.
they well it's complicated because it's like they have the race and the religion,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so you got these non-practicing, but
Yep.
then they're going to be the biggest diehards, like they are a crusader, and so that's where it gets very muddy trying to parse out the waters. But because of that, like it is a monolith. You have to interpret it as a monolith. Like it's going to be like what, like 90% of blacks, if they vote, are going to vote Democrat. It's a monolith. even though you have like the nuance 10%, you got like the 30% of Hispanics that are going to vote not Democrat, but it's still a monolithic vote, you know. And same with Jews. They've only switched for like all these power people, Time Magazine, Facebook. They've only pivoted to Trump because they knew they could pander to Republicans to fund this war, because this war tips off what falls into Iran.
Oh yeah, I'm not naive to think that people don't have in-group preference, at least a
Well,
lot,
that's
at least when they come to a new nation in droves. Like, and that was the whole point. Like, there was a fun documentary called like Searching for General Tso, and it was the history of the dish General Tso, and what it came down to is the reason so many Chinese restaurants in America look the same is because they're literally run by like one company
yeah.
that brings in Asian immigrants and sets them up with businesses and takes a percent of their business. And to them, they're saying, okay, we're helping our people get a
It's
job
an
in a
underground
nation.
railroad into America.
Yeah, and like, and we're supposed like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you think that that's a bad thing necessarily? No, I understand in-group preference, and I think people are naive and stupid to deny that that exists. But I personally refuse to say things as a monolith. Like, I've got too many black friends, I got too many Jewish friends, I got too many Irish and blah, 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 Catholic, Protestant friends to speak stupidly as if these people are a monolith and should be judged for the crimes and evils and conspiracy theories of other people.
Well, the Jews stand out more because like they're polled, you know, it's like an astounding percentage, like, yeah, just kill all the Gazans. It doesn't matter if they're like practicing Jews
Sure.
or if they are just ethnically.
Well, if you'd have polled
There's this
Irish people,
rabid
yeah,
ethnocentricity with these people. And what's funny is they get to like, they are a big influence of like anti-white publications for like a decade plus now.
see, that's something I would like to get into a deep talk with. 'Cause I don't know. I know the meme of that. I know the early life check meme. I don't know how much of that is actually true versus propaganda. And I'm not saying that in a "don't attack me" anti-Semitic. I'm saying I try to parse everything I see on the internet out through if it's real or not, or if I'm being propagandized.
Well, that's where a lot of the ethnocentricity of like Groypers comes in, of like
Yeah.
America is like, this is who we are, this is where we come from. When we had these lines, we had functioning nations, and when we fall prey to their narratives upon us that they don't follow, we are decaying. And this is like a big problem. This is where you get this white like fortifying of themselves politically as like, this is the
Hmm.
identity to cling to.
Hmm.
Again, I believe in Rome. You know, the Greeks definitely had like a supremacist distinction among everyone around them, but they were still like intermingling. So it's like it's how do you parse that out historically? But the Romans are a great example of us, where it's like, you don't have to be, you could be multicultural ethnically without
Yeah.
while maintaining a core culture.
No
And that's what
nation
America
stands.
has been for so long
No
until
nation
recently.
stands without a core culture. That's insane to think that multiculturalism
generally
can make it.
generally cultures have been racially like
Yeah,
codified.
ethnically.
Doesn't have to be, and I myself say that I'm mixed. You know, so like I'm a example of America, like Obama ethnically,
Mhm.
but also I say, well, I don't really have a culture. Like, I'm American, I'm not black or white. Like, I am black or white, but I'm not
Yeah.
culturally. I don't have a team culturally with like my race
Yeah.
because I'm mixed. And so
Well, the
um
question is, at one
we're in
point
a
in
world where,
American history, we
yeah,
did have an
American history
American
is,
culture. We did have an American culture, and now it's gone.
well, that is largely racial too. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why I invoke my biracialities. Like, I'm not against race mixing, like inherently. Like, I exist, I'm fine. But given the kind of self-imposed divides by American minorities, I discourage race mixing because it does invoke conflict in a marriage more often than not. And so this is another thing to lean into, like, well, I should probably stay racially pure in marriage and genetics, because there is like a downstream effect. You know, more than likely you'll have more continuity if you're like of the same flock. But
I
I'm
get
not,
what you're
you know,
saying.
I'm not
I
going
understand
to
what you're saying.
like,
I
so
think, and I
I'm
think.
in this weird spot where like I'm Groyper Jason, but I see people attack like
Mhm.
pregnant woman sharing a picture of her and her black husband, and they're like, "Mud shark, coal, burn
Yeah.
the coal. Oh, you're gonna get beat. You're gonna be a single mom." And I'm like, "What is? Aren't you Christian? Shouldn't you be
Yeah.
like praying they maintain their marriage for consistency of culture of like a family.
And the church is literally maybe the first real like mixed mixed institution ever. Like
Yeah, and
truly.
so so like I'm in this weird spot where it's like, no, I agree. We shouldn't race mix because it is more than likely to cause conflict if you do. And
Well, let me stop you there though, just
you
to put
gotta
an end like
if you're a kid, you
yeah,
gotta like I didn't grow up with this because I just was raised white. My parents divorced, and there wasn't any conflict in the divorce that I saw. They just didn't get along or whatever. My mom was young; she got married to like a 40-year-old guy, and
yeah.
so just generational, I think more so than racial. But being mixed, I was aware that like I can't go to the black table or the white table like on culture. I'm just me. I'm just American. So that's like the brilliance of like the idea of like South Park goobacks is like I think race mixing would be how you harmonize, but there is this artificial push to water down white people with minorities to subjugate them or well, here's the thing, the Jews and you can say this is like a Middle Eastern thing, but these people, they have like vendettas. So like when you talk about black people and their chip on their shoulder for like slavery, Jews have this for Rome. America is an extension of Rome. All right. And so it doesn't matter if you're white, black, whatever, like they hate us. They want to get the West. They want to make us fall. And that's really on racial lines right now. But if it became like black or Arab, but we maintain like the same cultural standards, they would still be trying to decay the West because they want to destroy Rome and everything that symbolizes it. America is the extension of Rome.
Let me add this real quick because I want to go back to your race mixing thing. We've been told by media and portrayed as always like some snooty British woman or something that's saying we don't mix with certain people, and of course it's like the family of the dashingly handsome thief or something. You know what I mean? And the reason a lot of that, I know there is pure racism in history. I understand that, but the idea of not mixing with certain groups or people that weren't different races or different ethnicities goes back to what you said, to avoid conflict. A lot of it is like that family of the same class as us, same race as us, but we don't marry with them because there's a blood feud there,
Papas and
or
McCoys.
exactly, and that's why a lot of inbreeding happen. Like we know now that the danger that causes eventually down the line, but a lot of it was because we don't want to cause further conflict for our children. We don't want further war, and again, like, there is
Well,
a
a lot of
racial
that
element
was
to that later.
greed with like the Egyptians or like with
That
medieval
too, yeah.
Europe. They're trying to keep the power in the family.
They saw complexity as leading to further issues, and that makes sense to some degree. But I don't. We are rather naive now to think that different cultures can somehow exist in the same place at the same time when that has never happened in all of human history. There has to be a dominant culture. And I don't think that has to be a white culture, as I think people are pushing now. I think it does have to be whatever an American culture is, but we can't decide what American culture is. I think we knew at one time and now we don't know.
See, this is why I lean into Team White though when you talk about this, because you look around the globe with black people and it's like there is something to us where like we be wild and like we cannot make functional societies. Like we can sustain at a primitive level, but we're not gonna make two-story buildings. We're not gonna make fucking like wonders of the world. Um it's in the history. Like black people have had contact with Rome, with Greece, with Egypt, and we did nothing with it. We didn't make a fucking wheel. We didn't make stone buildings. Like
The only reason I push back on that in this way is not to play like the leftist race thing, but Europe didn't either until the fall of Rome. Something had contact with them. They even traded to some degree, and they had war, of course. But something happened after the fall of Rome where Europe finally got its crap together and started building two-story buildings.
well, no, Rome was building two-story buildings.
Yeah, Rome was, but I'm saying Greater Europe.
Oh, I guess I don't know. Like,
Because we used to talk about these people like they were chewing sticks and painting their faces and living in trees.
yeah, that's like the German tribes.
Yeah.
Like Rome had France and Britain. It was really
Hmm.
when we think of Europe proper today, it's like basically Rome didn't have Germany, and
Yeah.
then you have all the Slavic regions, and so they they've had
What
most of
about
Europe.
what do you think of the Celtic? Not Celtic. I'm sorry. The Scottish Enlightenment.
I don't know about that.
It's like I think it was actually a couple of priests and Christians at the time. They were like, "Look, we have to change our culture. The English are a dominant culture. They are brilliant. They can manufacture. They can think. They can build two-story buildings. We have to adopt their culture." And that was actually where the Scottish Enlightenment kind of started. They were
Hmm.
like, "We have to learn English. We have to learn their culture. They learned from Rome."
See, I'm expecting like this is a totally random tangent. It's, I guess, capitalist, but
Mhm.
um,
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
oh, it's funny. Well, no. This is a great conversation, but I love the Avatar movies, the Avatar and Way
Oh
of
yeah,
Water. They're simple. People try to crap on them because they're simple. It's like these are spectacle films. They're not meant to like if you're wowing people visually, you can't also abstract them greatly. So you got to keep it simple. So having like this Indian colonist narrative is like a great idea. Keep it simple. Star Wars is simple. It's
hmm
revolutionaries. It's Viet Cong versus America. Any scrappy rebels versus an established empire. That's what Star Wars is. Very simple concept with crazy spectacle. But for some reason, Avatar doesn't get that leeway that Star Wars does. But one of the narratives I'm expecting that I think logically has to, because James Cameron is writing this like aware of Indians in America, and like I think he's aware of like, hey, why Indians probably should have like adopted some white man stuff for their own good. Like I think
Well, they
he's
had too
aware of
many
that.
blood feuds amongst themselves.
But yeah, they also I think were so entrenched in their traditional culture they never adapted to modernity because they don't really have an example. They're Stone Age people, um, so they don't really have this example of like innovation in culture long term. They don't have history books. Um, so I don't really fault the Indians for not seeing like the causal down the line effect, but with our awareness looking at the Indians, and that's who like the hero people are. Well, here's the thing: Avatar is not even really heroes and villains. Like everyone, like it makes sense. Earth people are trying to like find a new place to live and prosper, but we're bringing our old baggage, our capitalist, strip the earth bare practices to a new place. We're just going to repeat the same problems. And you got the noble savages who really do like integrate with nature. Their god literally is like a biologically relevant, tangible thing to interact with, to interface with, and still seeing like miracle happenings with like everyone's praying to AWA, and then AWA like influences all the species to collectivize to fight the fight. But there is no real villains necessarily, besides maybe the like actual people in charge, maybe are just villainous. But I think uh at some point the Navi, the collective Navi of Pandora, are going to have to realize they have to modernize to they can't just keep using sticks and stones and biological weapons like they're pterodactyls and stuff to fight industrialized whalers and helicopters and spaceships. So I think that's going to be like a narrative in
Are you trying to
Avatar.
say adopt or die?
Not intentionally, but well, it's just funny too because like it's funny. Avatar makes 2 billion every time because it's a global phenomenon. We all wish we could live like the Indians of whatever area we're from on the earth. We all have our like Indians
Return
basically.
with a V.
Yeah, like we all wish we could be more simplistic and like be tied to the earth. Even
Eden.
though we like the innovations and niceties of modernity, we also I think are self-aware of like this is too abstract. We have crossed planes of existence and intellect
Mhm.
that we shouldn't be even contemplating because we're so removed from nature. That's why the Greeks were so smart, because they're such great mental innovators, but they're also doing war with each other all the time, war across the seas, and interfacing with other tribes of like Egyptians, Ethiopians,
Yeah.
whatever. And they're also subject to the earth and to plague and famine. And so you had like a great like mortal people that were reaching
Mhm.
for the heavens. So they were equally human and animal. That's why the Greeks echo for 3,000 years through history.
Careful now, Angus. You're making an argument that the story of Eden and the bite of the apple might be true.
I don't know.
we long for the paradise where things were simpler and we didn't know as much until we took a bite.
Yeah, I guess I'm saying something about like ignorance, like being being more innocent in our ignorance, and
Yeah, pastoral.
I guess I don't know. I never really abstracted it that way. That's interesting.
That was a Tolkien thing.
Fuck Tolkien. I really hate Tolkien. Like, I hate him. Like, Lord of the Rings is cool because the movies, but like the books are a fucking slog. Like, I'm glad artists could extrapolate the fucking bore fest that those books are.
On that note, I'm gonna have to run. I've got an appointment over here at 2. But I will gladly come back on to discuss DOS Jews with you.
Yeah. Before you go, though,
Anytime.
this is a thing that really stuck out to me because I was watching a Netflix documentary about like the Nazis, whatever, and World War II, and it was funny because like it said something about like it's talking about industry and the difference in the Nazis versus like Americans, and it's like Hitler. They said something like Hitler hated capitalism because he said it was Jewish, and I'm like, huh? And then I find this quote. I'm assuming it's from Mein Kampf. It might be from like a speech. I'm not sure, but he says, "We are socialist. We are enemies of today's capitalistic economic system for the exploitation of the economically weak, with its unfair salaries, with its unseemly evaluation of a human being according to wealth and property instead of responsibility and performance. And we are all determined to destroy the system under all conditions." And I'm like, based? Luigi Mangione, like, hell yeah. I hear this and I'm like, yeah, he had some good ideas, like, and so it also makes me think like, oh yeah, maybe we are, like, it's like both Hitler and who's the guy who wrote 1984?
Orwell.
George Orwell. I was gonna say Orson Welles, like that's not right. George Orwell, they were both socialist of whatever degree, but they were both like anti-communist. And when you're American, you're like, well, that's the same thing. What are you talking about? But then I hear this and I'm like, I don't know if like the communists just hate communism or capitalism because they want like a utopia of equal, just blanket equality, like a Borg. I hear this and I'm like, yeah, maybe I am a socialist because
Well, that was what fascism and National Socialism was in the name. National
yeah,
Socialism. It's socialism for your people. That
yeah,
was the idea because communism was a global revolution for all people. That was their difference.
yeah. And so, yeah, I'm just in this point where it's like, I obviously am not Republican or Democrat. They're both compromised. Even if you got a third party, like, no, you can't. This is a broken system. We need to just like break everything back to the Constitution. Just start fresh with that original document. But I see stuff like this and I'm like, huh, like we've been lied to.
Oh,
And
I
I'm just
I
like
do think we've
stuck.
been lied to. Yeah, I think these things are like I said, I try to give everyone in history the benefit of the doubt, and I mean that in present day history. Like I said, I have a disregard for the Middle East conflict, but I try to give the Palestinian and the Israeli people benefit of the doubt because I'm not there. Yes, they think scrummy wormy. I tell you, next time I'll bring my facts and logics. Wait till Angus starts adopting the fascist slogan of "I don't give a damn." Then
I
it's
already feel
over.
that way. Yeah. That's funny.
I'm pretty sure that was a response to. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that was a response to the socialist left wing linguistic games that they would play that we see playing out now. I think that was the forced opposition was they would scream, "I don't give a damn," and they would act. And like I said, I don't like fascism, communism, or Nazism, but you have to study these things. These people, all of these people, no matter what you believe, like communist, Mao, fascism, Hitler, Mussolini, the people that they are and the people that followed them, these aren't cartoon villains. Like there's something there. There's
oh,
something we need
yeah.
to know. Some of them may have been evil and done evil things, but I don't think anyone's just a cartoon villain except,
This is the irony of the Jews and their scapegoating Hitler for eternity is like you've kept him on our mind. He's the only guy we ever like vilify people
he's the
against.
devil.
And so at some point it's like, wait, what was this Hitler guy about? Because I'm 80 years removed from World War II, like
Mhm.
and you're like, oh. well, thanks for keeping them on our mind so I could check them out. Thanks. Like, you know,
I
they've completely
well,
undermined themselves.
I think
The
everybody
hubris
should
of the
be. I think
villain.
everybody should find out for themselves and study things for themselves. I think when you try to hide something, regardless of who it is or intentions, because we don't learn about Mussolini either. We don't learn about Mao in school. We don't really learn about Stalin, and there's a myth
Well,
that builds up, and you have
again,
to know the true history.
the Bolsheviks. Like, this is where it's like, this is like a Jew thing, Dan. You just got to admit it. Bolsheviks were Jewish.
I've looked at that and I don't know, and that's like I said, that's not me being a whatever. I don't know what there's so many rabbit holes. I don't know. I haven't gone down them. I'm not
It
gonna
is
make
like
the
I was looking
yeah.
into that positive Christianity. I'm like, hell yeah. Yeah. Like I wouldn't do that because I have like integrity to just like abstain completely. But it's like, yeah, let's just meddle
Well,
with the Christian narrative
the
and then
weirdest thing is like these
paganize them again.
ideologies were German though. They weren't because I know the blame of like, oh, like communism, Marxism is Jewish. It's like, well, when you read like the inspirations, a lot of them were German and not Jewish, and a lot of them were German because they were Enlightenment, and they were Enlightenment because they were anti-Christian. And we can go back and forth on that, but then people are like, okay, well then I guess everything in the Enlightenment was somehow magically Jewish, even though these were also English guys and French guys.
Well, this is where I come into like, well, if it's Christian, it is inherently Jewish. So get out of
The
here.
Jews just don't like it. Got it. Angus, you also like blame the Jews whenever your toaster broke.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm not that flippant. Like
Yeah.
that's a joke at work with the guy. Because I'll just be scrolling. I'm like, dude, they just opened a Holocaust museum in South Korea. Do you
That
see
is
the
weird.
control
That is
here?
strange.
Do you see the control here? Do you see the narrative? Like, why did the Koreans they need a history of slavery
They need a history
unbroken?
of communism.
No, like Korea has the longest history of unbroken
Of slavery ever.
slavery.
Yeah.
And yet the Koreans, who are probably getting raped by Japanese during World War II,
Hmm.
are needing a talking to about the Holocaust.
Well,
Do
that
you
was the old
see
Cumtown joke where he's like, "Why is there a Holocaust museum in Texas?"
why is
Like,
there a Holocaust museum in Fortnite? There's not
is there one?
yeah, like this is what I'm talking about. Like
That's
this is
funny though.
why you like Jews. And
Angus, that's hilarious. You got to give it to him on that one. That's hilarious.
I mean, yeah, it's like, well,
You
it's
would
the
do that if you could
audacity.
right now.
It's the audacity. That's what's so they're so
Right.
flippant, you
I'm
know.
sorry, man. I got to run. I do have an
But yeah,
appointment. I
you
got
get
to
out
run
of
to.
here.
But I love talking to you. Like I said, I wish we've got like 40 different topics like backlogged. Everybody that's still here. I love talking to Angus. We disagree on 99% of everything, but
I enjoy
I
it
don't know.
though.
I
Yeah.
do too, and I respect you. I think that's what's important.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run
Appreciate
before I'm
you get
destroyed
out of
by
here.
facts and logics.
Here you go. Get out of here. Just saying hi to y'all in the chat, addressing y'all properly. I did try to interject y'all into our conversation when appropriate or whatnot, but I'll address y'all appropriately. Go sub to Dan. Let me pull up his channel real quick. This was fun. It's like I'm like, well, hey, here's like the fact, bro, and it's like, oh no, you just blame him for everything. And it's like that sounds Jewish. And so there is like this comedic circular logic on both sides of the debate with that. Because I totally get the meme of like, you just blame them for everything. It's like mechanisms of control in society. Yeah, sorry. Like, it's just, this is like the literal history you start looking into. You're like, fuck, it's everywhere. And so I'm aware of the joke, but like, I literally am, I'll talk to Ricky about this. And it's like, I know it sounds like it's on repeat. I can't help it. It is the facts. It's not even me like seeking it out. I just will fall into it. Like, are you? God damn it! I just wanted to blame like a senator here, and then it's like APAC owns them. Sorry, damn it! Like, well, let me find GODFOE's channel real quick, so you can sub it if you haven't, or in the future, I'll have it linked here. I've been needing to catch up with his streams. Here's his channel. Put in the chat for y'all. Yeah, thank Keely Chow for being here. Gray Cloudy Day. Yeah, are you on Twitter? I'm at Angus Reviews. Yes, my account is Fembob Sponge Bussy. That is me. It's at Angus Reviews though. I get way more interaction now being Finbob Sponge Bussy than just being Angus Reviews on Twitter. So I don't think it'll change anytime soon. Claudia said, I respect divine, feminine, and masculine. So, like, you know, I say I'm pagan, but it's like so surface level. It's not a LARP. It's just there's no real community tangible. There's no like church group to go to. This is the disadvantage of like a heartfelt seeking of like paganry. Is that you got to reconstruct. And unfortunately, even though I'm like, hey, Jews, I'm aware of like I don't want to be involved with like white supremacist facets of paganry, especially in like Nordic, Asatru, or Odinism. There's a lot of like these sects that are white supremacists, and I think I think it's a flawed logic because like maybe white people made these religions, or these religions these white people had your ancestors, but if your religion is true, it should not be racially exclusive. You should be rejoicing when foreigners embrace your gods willingly without subjugation. And that was like something the Greeks and the Romans had, and they intermingled and they would integrate or they would harmonize different gods. I think, was it Amun-Ra or Isis? There's an Egyptian god that was like exclusively still Egyptian, but the Romans really bought into that god in their pantheon. He had the Temple of Zeus Amon, or I guess the Oracle, or both in Siwa in Egypt. That's a Greek thing. So yeah, religion should not be racially exclusive. That's retarded. So, you know, I'm a complicated being. That's why I'm Groiper adjacent, because it's definitely Groiper talking points I agree with. I even give credence to like the religious fervor, even though I'm against the religion they have the fervor for. Because I am aware of like, well, this has been a backbone of the civilization post pagan Rome, whether I like it or not. And actually, Christianity has a lot to thank paganry, because a lot of the institution was already kind of built up by paganry that Christianity, or you could say Catholic or Orthodox, kind of infiltrated or took over in their takeover of Rome as a whole. But yeah, it'd be cool to talk with you, Gray Cloudy Day. You seem like a fun guy in the chat. I got Scrummy Wummy. I'm into fundamentalism. I don't know if you're referencing Eric July or if you're being serious about being a fundamentalist. If you're gonna be Christian, I would say don't be that. Be Catholic or Orthodox. If you're going to be Christian, because other stuff's it's watered down. Your Bible is literally missing books that you'll find as a Catholic. That's the point. You know, it's like, this is the honesty I have with Christianity. It's like, well, if you're going to do it, I don't recommend it, but at least get the full picture, you know. And even that, you got to question the Catholic Bible of what they don't have, because there's these, you know, I guess Gnostic Gospels, these heretical books, book of like Pilate and Thomas and stuff. I don't know about personally, but I'm aware of them. So it's complicated. It's complicated. How many lesser people do y'all own? None yet, but hey, if we get the Trumpenreich installed, things could change. I remember I invoked Darth Vader. Oh, I was saying how it's convenient that the Hebrews, right, in the Exodus story, that the pagan Egypto practicing Hebrews were just killed in like the earthquake and in the walk in the desert for 40 years. I was comparing that to the convenient narrative of George Lucas with Star Wars, that Vader, Space Hitler, never has to actually face his sins. He just gets to spiritually absolve himself in the Force. I said that's very convenient. So that was what I was referencing. It's more a comparison of convenience, not really of like, oh, this is a Darth Vader in the Bible. It's unfortunate. I think that was when Dan invoked his possible Jewish ancestry. You are right there, Scrummy. Imagine if I was laughing at that, but I didn't get to invoke it with capitalism. But imagine if Christ came back next year. That was part of why I was talking about Avatar. Was in this capitalist system, Avatar is beautiful to me because this guy spent like, I want to say he spent like 15 years making the first Avatar. He started around Titanic, like sketching and coming up with these ideas. And then he makes it in 08. And then he waits till 2023. So he waits like another 15 years to make the sequel. So when you get these retards like Friday Night Tights trying to say it's like just some cash grab, it's like this dude spent years. This is not some Marvel chop shop. This is not DC by the seat of their pants trying to catch up to Marvel. Or, this is like artistry. It's simple. I think people don't get that like profound art can be simple. And I think that's the real litmus test of Avatar is if you can just find the beauty in it without crying that it's simple. Like, okay. Let me see. That's funny. Us nerds, we don't really have friends. it's a struggle. It's our comp, you could say. Mein Kampf. It's funny too because I was joking about Mein Kampf with Dan before we went on stream, and he said like I don't know if he bought it, but he said he found a copy in the wild for like $8. He thought it was really weird. I'm like, and you bought it and put it on your mantle, right? Like you're supposed to. I don't have a copy. I do plan to get it because what an influential political thinker. Like him or hate him. I should probably read Churchill as well, but he's got like a giant tome, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a piece of shit. Let me see. No, I wouldn't say nomadic people in general are useless. So I don't think black people being nomadic or being tribal, being rudimentary is useless. I was just invoking like the racial realities that we can see over millennia with black people as a catch-all term through history. What have we done? This whole like in modernity, we're trying to steal other people's credentials. We were Egyptians, we were samurai, we were the Greeks, we were the Romans, we were fucking Vikings, we were the Moors. It's like, no, those are North African or Muslims. Like, like all this time, and the greatest thing we can say is like, oh, well, we did that. And you're trying to steal credit. It's just like, bro, what functioning society is like? What black country do you want to go to and like live? It's one thing to visit to see like lions. You want to live in any of these countries? You don't want to go to where they're flooding in Europe. You don't want to go to Paris. And that's kind of what I'm saying. Just being like real about the issue. There is something about white people that, and Asians too, to a lesser extent, they're innovators. And I think I don't know if anyone's like collegiately, academically wrote about this, but I've pieced out, you think of like the areas of white influence in early archaic history with like the Greeks in their region. They're way behind the curve against the Medes or the Persians, etc. Egypt, way behind the curve, but then they like skyrocket past them in innovation, philosophically, architecturally, war. Like Persia became reliant on Greek warfare. They were buying Greek mercenaries as much as they could find them. That was part of the downfall of Persia. Was Alexander had a reverse engineered roadmap from Xenophon of how to take Persia. So they undermined themselves with outsourcing to a superior military. But they had to do that like on an uphill trajectory. They were going uphill against established people, and then they surpassed them, and they took over. They took over, at least for a time, all the way to the Indus Valley, Bactria and stuff, with Seleucids. And then you got the Vikings, less so, but still innovators, especially with their navy innovations. Also, Greece is not a great place to farm, generally speaking. Besides maybe olives, it's not a great place to farm or ranch like sheep or anything. So they got to be way more. You're not living at the equator and can just pick fruit off a tree every day. So I think there's something about that. And Asia has a lot of this too with their terrains. Japan is a shitty fucking strip of land. Can't do much with it. So the fact you have the Japanese Empire, repeatedly these different empires, the shoguns and stuff. I don't know much about Chinese history, but they have these huge empires, ebbing and flowing. They were innovators. They're making written language. Maybe they did paper money. I'm not sure, but gunpowder or black powder. They were innovators too because they're in like harsh environments. I think that's a big factor. The black people are like equatorial. They don't have to innovate. It's like the Amazonian Indians. They don't have to innovate. They can just like live a rudimentary life off the land. But then they're not like building anything because they're just kind of coasting. So I think that's the difference that you see through. And I think there's like a pedigree that's made. Like all these great runners are usually in the Olympics, usually black people. Well, it's like black people have to chase gazelle until they like die, so they're distance runners. Most of the great lifters are white people, it's different temperament and you got a pedigree of doing that and selecting for it. So that's mental too. It's got to be mental as well. If you can inherit mental diseases from your parents, how could you not inherit mental acuity? Let me see. I know the name Aldous Huxley. What is he? Doors of Perception? Aldous Huxley. Let me see what he's famous for. Yeah, Doors of Perception. Oh, he's a newer guy. I thought maybe there's some guy from like the 1600s is also like comes up around him. I'm way behind doing philosophy, but it's definitely an interest of mine. This has been like Abbott and Costello visit Auschwitz. That's hilarious. Auschwitz is fake, bro. Literally is fake. I take David Washington, David Irving, that historian. I take his position on Auschwitz. But caught up with you good people. Good time. This is impromptu. A little hoarse. I was throwing up this morning, trying to get a nap in. Kept throwing up, so that was unfortunate. But could close this out now. 2 hours. Got the little afterflow of me, but definitely go sub to Dan here, and I'll put it in the description if you made it this far. Whether you agree with me or not, appreciate you watching, and leave a comment. Say fuck you or hey, hi old friend. Like either way. Appreciate it. I'm here to be real and have conversations. So appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, I am Horseman. Damn it. I mean, the Rippaverse is everywhere. Sometimes me and Ricky will like fall into jokes watching. We just finished Better Call Saul, and we'll still have like fucking Rippaverse references, like just naturally kind of like nice some like yeah, there's another example, like great black innovators in comics. Are you going to invoke Eric July versus all the like white and Jews too? Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko. I don't think it's gotta be like a Polish name. Maybe he's a Jew. I'm not sure. But anyway, talk to y'all later.